Alright, so this is the study guide for algebra, and we're going to go through 1 through 36. So I'm going to try and go through each of the problems, but because there's so many of them, I'm trying to go through as fast as possible. So if you are confused at all, please make sure that you ask when you come back to school. Okay. But problem number 1, first thing is PEMDAS. I got to solve what's inside the parentheses, and so 9 minus 2 is 7. And on the bottom, the next thing I got to do is multiplication. So on top, we're going to multiply those. We get 28. On the bottom, you get a 56. And you just have to remember to simplify the fraction, and that fraction simplifies to a 1 over 2. Next one, again, remember PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. First thing you've got to do is parentheses. I solve that. That's a negative 5. Everything else I bring on down. 18 divided by 3 minus. You got a double negative here, so you got to be careful. That double negative becomes a positive. Okay. So next thing I got to do, I'm done with parentheses. I got to do exponents. 5 squared means 5 times 5, which is 25. And then I'll write a little bit neater. 18 divided by 3, and we said this was a plus 5. Cool, we are done with exponents. Multiply or divide. Look, there's division right here. I go 18 divided by 3, which is 6. Okay. Everything else that I don't use, I bring on down. Plus 5. So I go 25 plus 6, which is 31, and 31 plus 5 means my final answer is 36. Okay, whenever you have an exponent in a parentheses, though, you always need to multiply what's inside the parentheses. So let's just say multiply what's inside the parentheses by itself 2 different times. So it's negative 5 times negative 5, which means your answer is a positive 25. Whenever there isn't a parentheses, my answer is always going to be a negative. And what this means is 5 times 5, which means this is a 25. So when you have no parentheses and you have a negative, it will always be a negative answer. When you have a parentheses, then it could be a negative or it could be a top positive. It just depends on what that power is. On this one, what we're going to do is we're going to plug these two numbers in. We're going to plug them in for x and plug them in for y. So we get a 22 minus 7 over 3. You got to do subtraction first on the top. So that is a 22 minus 7 means I get a 15 over 3, and 15 divided by 3 means that we get a 5. Next thing is we just got to plug these numbers in. So again, where I see an x, I'm going to put a parentheses, 3 to the power 3. Y is negative 2 to the power of 4. And remember, I got to do exponents first before I multiply. So 3 times 3 times 3 is 9. Negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 16. Okay, and we have a 10. And the last thing I have to do is to just multiply these 3 numbers. 10 times 9 times 16 means that our final answer is 4,320. On 7, we just need to combine like terms. So first things first is I see this one has an x to the power 3. That one has x to the power 3. When you add them together, you get 4x to the power 3. Next, if I see that I have this one, x squared, and this one, x squared, that's a negative 8x squared plus a 3x squared, means you get a negative 5x squared. You just add or subtract the number in front, don't do anything to the power. And that means that the last one is these two is that both have a y squared. When I combine those together, we get a negative 5y squared. We're doing the same thing on 8, just first thing before I have to do is I have to distribute. So 8x plus 40 plus 3x minus 10 plus 10x. All the ones that have an x, we're going to combine together. So that's this one, and this one. When we combine all those together, we get a 21x. The ones that don't have an x, we combine those together, and that's going to give us a plus 30. We do the same thing on problem number 9. We're going to distribute. So 5x squared plus 30x minus 40. There's really a negative 1 right here. We distribute, which is a negative 3x squared plus 6x minus 17. And this negative 3 we distribute, which is a negative 3x squared plus 24x. Okay, once I have it like this, we're just combining like terms. So the ones that have this x to the power of 2, I underline to do that, and that's how I get a negative x squared, or negative 1x squared. All the ones that have just an x, right here, I combine those together, and that's how I get a plus 60x. And then the final thing is the ones that have no x's or no y's, I combine those together, and that's how we get a negative 57. For 10, I'm trying to get x to be all by itself. I'm actually solving for x. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 7 to both sides. We get a negative 1x equals 9, and divide both sides by a negative 1, which means that x equals a negative 9. I do the same thing here. It doesn't matter which side that x is on. I'm just trying to get everything away from it. So when I add 19 to both sides, I get 54. So I'm going to get, again, I can put the x on the left if I want to. X equals 54. But I just need to divide both sides by 3, which means that x is going to equal a positive 18. And then on this one, before I do anything, I have to distribute. So that's how I get the 8x minus 36 equals 60x minus 36. And again, I didn't want to bring all the x's to one side. I'm going to bring them to the right because I just want to keep my x a positive number. That cancels. I get 52x plus minus 36. Minus 36 equals a negative 36. And I'm like, oh, well, what happens when I bring this 36 to the other side? Well, it becomes a 0. I get 0 equals 52x. Okay, again, 0 is a number. You can get 0, but if I divide both sides by 52, if 0 is on top, that means I'm going to get x equals 0. 0 is an answer you can get. If 0 is on the bottom, it would be undefined. 13, alright, 13, I said this in class before, but 13 is not really going to be on the final because it's just a very complicated fraction, so I wouldn't really worry about it. Let's just skip that one for now and go to 14. So 14, again, we're doing the same thing. We just have to distribute. This is really a negative 1. Distribute. We get a negative 8x minus 6 minus 1x plus 7 equals a 46. Combine like terms, so that's how I get a negative 9x. Negative 9x, and this is going to give me a plus 1 equals 46. I subtract the 1 over. I get a negative 9x equals a positive 45, and divide both sides by negative 9, which means that x equals a negative 5. Whew, going fast. Same thing, 15, distribute. 23 minus 10x minus 18 equals 10x plus 11. I'm combining like terms, so that means when I combine like terms on 15, I get a 5 minus a 10x equals 10x plus 11. I'm going to bring all the x's to one side. I like them on the, I like them to be positive, so I'm going to bring them to the right. So I get this 20x plus 11 equals a positive 5. Subtract the 11, and whoops, this shouldn't be 11. Remember, when I distribute it, that should have been a 55, 55, 55. So I need to subtract a 55 to both sides. That's how I get a negative 50 equals 20x. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 20, which means you can have x equals a negative 5 over 2, or you can have it equal a decimal negative 2.5. Both mean the same thing. Cool? Alright, keep on going. 16, I'm going to multiply both sides by 8 in order to get rid of that out of the bottom denominator. 5x minus 3 equals 32. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I'm going to get 5x equals 35. Then divide both sides by 5, which means that x equals 7. Again, if I'm going too fast, please just pause the video, write it down as we're going, but I'm just trying to get through as many of these problems as quick as possible without making this an hour video. 17, I distribute, so I get 2x minus 8x plus 6 equals 6 minus 6x. Combine like terms on the right. That's how we get a negative 6x plus 6 equals 6 minus 6x. Okay, I'm going to bring all the x's to one side, and when I do that, I'm like, uh-oh, something just happened because those x's crossed off on both sides. What are we left with? You're left with 6 equals 6. Does 6 equal 6? It does, which means what? Which means I'm going to have infinite many solutions. 18, I have to distribute. Negative 20x plus 28 plus 2x equals negative 18x minus 10. I'm going to combine my terms, which that's how I get a negative 18x plus 28 equals negative 18x minus, what's next? Minus a 10. Again, I want to bring all the x's to one side. But again, I will notice on this one, when I bring the x's to both sides, they cancel out on both. Which means we're left with what? 28 equals negative 10. So does 28 equal negative 10? No, they don't. What am I going to get? That is no solution. 19, when you have something, a proportion, you need to do the cross multiplying. When I cross multiply, you're going to get 8x equals 120. I divide both sides by 8, which means that x is going to equal a positive 15. 20, I'm doing the same thing. Just this time, when I do the butterfly, that cross multiply, I'm going to make sure I put a parentheses around it, separated by equal sign, and I do the same thing to the other side. Parentheses, because I do the parentheses because that's telling me that I need to distribute. So when I distribute, I get 3x plus 27 equals 5x minus 5. Go bring the x's to one side, and that means I'm left with a 2x minus 5 equals a 27. Add 5 to both sides, that's 5. 32 equals a 2x. Then divide both sides by 2, and that's how I get x was equal to 16. Again, if that's going really fast, I feel like once we get the first setup, then we're just solving equations. So you just pause it, write down what I'm writing down, and hopefully that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to clear up some space, so make sure you can pause it or rewind it, but I'm going to clear this really quick, and we're doing the same thing on this one. We're going to get, this is a 7x equals, I do these two. I'm going to do a 3 parentheses x minus 8. Distribute, 7x equals a 3x minus 24. Bring the x all to one side, and we're going to get a 4x equals a negative 24. Divide both sides by 4, and x is going to equal a negative 6. Alright, next one. If I want to get b all by or h all by itself, I have to divide both sides by b, which means that h equals b over b. On 23, I want to get y to be by itself, so I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. After I do that, we're going to get a negative 2y equals, put the x first, plus 12, and I'm going to divide by 2. When you divide by 2, you got to divide everything by 2, so we're going to get y equals a 5 over 2x minus a 6. Absolute values, you need to separate this into two different ones. You're going to get a x minus 1 equals a positive 6, and x minus 1 equals a negative 6. Add 1 over, that's how I get x equals 7. Add 1 over, that's how I get x equals a negative 5. You want to do the same thing on problem number 25. But before you do that, you need to get the absolute value all by itself. Please never distribute when it comes to an absolute value. Always get rid of it by dividing it first, and that's how I get this is an absolute value of x plus 8 equals a 10. And again, we're doing the same thing. Separate into an x plus 8 equals 10, and x plus 8 equals a negative 10. Subtract 8 over. That's how I get x equals 2. Subtract 8 over, that's how I get x equals a negative 18. Same thing here, I want to get this absolute value all by itself, so you need to subtract the 2 to both sides. Negative 5, 6x plus 15 equals a negative 45. And then again, I don't want to distribute, I want to divide by a negative 5. That's how we get a 6x plus 15 equals a positive 9. You need to split this into 2. So I'm going to get a 6x plus 15 equals a positive 9, and 6x plus 15, I just have to change this into a negative 9. When I solve both these equations, I will subtract 15 and then divide by 6, and that's how I'm going to get one of them is going to be x equals a negative 1, and that other one will be x equals a negative 4. Alright, on this one, we're just going to pretend that this inequality sign is an equal sign, so I'm just going to distribute. I get x plus 3 is less than or equal to 2x minus 8. And again, I want to bring all the x's to one side, so I'm going to subtract x. It's going to be x. And I'm going to do this in the same step. I'm going to add 8 over, and I get 11 greater than or equal to. I think it's better if you write it with the x on the left side. So our x, or 11, it's facing towards the x. X is greater than or equal to 11. Which means that 11, I do a closed circle, greater than or equal to, it's going this way. Interval notation means I start at 11, I go off into infinity. Infinity signs, you always do a parentheses. Closed circles, you always do a bracket. You do the same thing on problem number 28. You're going to add 4 to both sides. Negative 2x is less than 14. Divide both sides by a negative 2. I get x, this is negative 7, and you just can't forget, anytime you multiply or divide both sides by a negative, you need to flip the inequality sign. That's how I got a negative 7. Open circle, and it's going to the left. If it's going to the left, you are coming from negative infinity, and you are stopping at negative 7. Open circle means a parentheses. 29, I need to distribute. 3x plus 1 plus 11 is greater than negative 2x minus 26. Combine like terms. 3x plus 12 is less than negative 2x minus 26. I'm going to add the 2x, and that's going to give me a 5x. I'm going to subtract the 12, and that's what's going to give me a minus a 12, minus a 12, a negative, where am I messed up? Going too fast. This is a 3. I can't forget. This is a 3 when I distribute, that's a 3. Which means when I combine like terms, that's not a 12, that's a 14. Because when I subtract a 14 to both sides, that's how I'm going to get a 5x. The sign still stays the same direction, and it's a negative 40. So when I divide both sides by 5, we are going to get x is less than a negative 8. Negative 8, just put it somewhere on the graph. That should be an open circle. If it's facing that way, it means that my arrow is going to the left. Which means we are coming from negative infinity, and we are stopping at 8, parentheses for both. Alright, 30, I need to distribute. 3x plus 8x plus 4 is less than or equal to 12x plus 2. Combine like terms. 11x plus 4 is less than or equal to 12x plus 2. Let's say I want to keep this a positive. I like my x's to be positive, so I'm going to bring it all the way to the left. I subtract it, that's how I get x. I'm going to subtract this 2 from this side. So x is greater than or equal to a positive 2. And I like to write it where the x is on the right. It's greater than or equal to a positive 2. So at a 2, I'm going to do a closed circle. It's going that way. We're starting at 2, going off into infinity. Bracket for a closed circle. On 31, if you're writing this in interval notation, you are starting off at negative 5. You are ending at 3. Bracket for close, parentheses for open circles. An or statement means that we are coming from negative infinity. You're stopping at negative 1. Open circle for, or parentheses for open circle, parentheses. Now you'll either see the word or you might see the symbol like a U symbol. And we're starting off 3 and going off into infinity. And this is a closed circle, so it means we have to use a bracket. Alright, 33, I need to separate these into 2 different equations. One equation is going to be a negative 5 and less than 3x plus a 4. The other one is a 3x plus 4 is less than a 19. You're solving for both ways. What we're doing is we're going to subtract a 4. So if I subtract a 4 to both sides, alright, you get a negative 9 is less than 3x. This, when you subtract a 4, you get a 3x is less than a 15. And I'm just going to divide both sides by 3. I'm just doing these problems at the same exact time. So this is going to give me x is greater than a negative 3. And this is a x is a less than a 5. So I need to put these on the graph. Negative 3. Here's a 5. Let's just spread them out a little bit. Open circle, open circle. X is greater than negative 3, which means the arrow is going this way. X is less than negative 5. Arrow is going that way. That's an and statement, which means they are coming together. If I'm writing this in interval notation means we start at negative 3, we stop at 5, open circles for both, so negative 3, 5. Alright, so this one, it's an and statement. Both statements, we are going to subtract first the 8 and the 5. Okay, so I get a 3x is greater than, when I subtract an 8 here, 3x is greater than 9. Let's just solve one at a time. Let's say I divide by 3. X is greater than 3. So here is, let's solve this one too. Subtract by 5. 2x is less than or equal to 2. Divide by 2. X is less than or equal to a positive 1. Okay, so I have, here's a 1. Let's just kind of spread them out together. Here's a 3. 1 is a closed circle. It's a closed circle. 3 is an open circle. X is greater than 3. Arrow's going that way. X is less than less than 1. It's going that way. So interval notation means you're coming from negative infinity, stopping at 1, parentheses, bracket. You could do this little symbol or write the word or, and you're starting at 3 and going off into positive infinity. Both, they're going to be parentheses. Okay. Whew. All right, 2 left. So copy that down or pause really quick. But the last 2 is you're doing the same thing just with a inequality. Alright, so it means I am going to add 5 over. So I want to get this absolute value all by itself. Absolute value of x plus 2 is less than or equal to a, when you add a 5, that's a 13. You're going to spread this out into 2 different ones. X plus 12 is greater than or equal to 13. Another one is x plus 12. You got to flip the x plus 2. You got to flip the inequality and change this into a negative. That's how we're going to get, for one of them, is going to be a x is greater than or equal to 11, x is less than or equal to a negative 15. So again, let's just put these on the graph. Negative 15, positive 11, negative 15, there, it's going this way, which means arrow's going that way. This is a closed circle, x squared is going that way. So you're going from negative infinity and you're stopping at 15, closed circle, bracket. You do this symbol or write the word or. We're going to have 11, and you go off into a, my infinity sign is getting bad, and off into infinity. And this is a bracket, this is a closed circle. Whew! 36, last one. We are first going to add 6 over. Add 6 over. That's going to give us a 3, say 2x minus 4 is less than or equal to 30. Divide by 3, and we're going to get a 2x minus 4. The absolute value of that is less than or equal to 10. You got to split this up into 2 different equations. 2x minus 4 is less than or equal to 10. 2x minus 4 is greater than or equal to negative 10. And you just solve. Add 4 over, divide by 2. So one of the ones, we'll put it in a different color. This first one here, you're going to get a x is less than or equal to 7. When you solve this one here, you're going to get x is greater than or equal to a negative 6. Graph it. Here's a negative 6. Here's a positive 7. They are both closed circles, closed circle, closed circle. And one is greater than negative 6. They are coming together. So you start at negative 6. You're ending at 7. They are both closed circles, so they are both brackets. You got that. Woo! That was 1 through 36. Hopefully that helped clarify questions. If you are still struggling, please make sure you ask in class, and I'd be happy to clarify those. If I went really fast, you can at any time just pause the video, write it down, and listen as I go through it. Cool? Alright, see you guys soon.